Even though this is going to be the 5 things that I don't like about the Himalayan, be aware, because I know people who are watching this video are people who are researching, do I want to buy a Himalayan? And really why I'm sharing this is that this is just be aware of what you're getting into. For some of you, it might be right off the shelf, like right off the floor. You're going to get the bike and you're going to love petering around with it. If you're someone that's going to want to do a little bit more of the adventure stuff, then there are some additions that you need to get. Like, for example, do not go with the stock skid plate. Make sure you get yourself some, rear racks, just for the protection, like in case it's going to fall. Because as soon as you start doing adventure riding, you inevitably will drop the bike. Don't get used to the shiny, color of the tank or the shiny plastics, because that stuff's going to get scratched. So as you use the bike, it will get worn in. Just be aware of that, that what you're getting is, if you want to take it, do some adventure riding, you're going to be making some changes. Hey everyone, welcome to this video. This might actually be maybe one of the last couple of videos that I'm going to do on the Himalayan. These are really the 5 reasons that are driving me to sell this motorcycle. So the first thing is the clearance. And you've probably heard this. If you're looking to buy a Himalayan, just be aware that for the type of riding that I do, where I take this off-road, I'm in Arizona in the deserts, there's a lot of rocks that we're going over, and I've got the right protection underneath, which is really a heavy-duty skid plate. But what happens is that the bike can it can bottom out on certain things, which is then a bit of a pain trying to get it off it. That's one of the main things. Also, just, your feet are kind of hanging low. So, you'll catch either rocks or maybe debris that's near the side of the trail. That's really not the best for the type of riding I do. If you're going to keep this thing on the street, it's perfect. You do not need to worry about the ground clearance. But if you want to take this thing and do really the off-road stuff, that it's, people say, well, it's not meant for that. Well, it is. This thing is a tank off-road. Like, it just keeps going. It can crawl up things. You don't need to worry about, flying off a cliff because you've got too much torque that's just, taking you too fast too soon. Really, this is a great bike to take off-road. I'm not talking single track. I'm talking like, what Jeeps will go on, side-by-sides will go on, minus kind of that crazy rock climbing that they do. But this stuff works great in that. And it's wonderful. And I have a blast going around here in Arizona with this bike. For the road, no worries at all for the clearance, as I mentioned before. Now, really kind of the next thing that I want to talk about is the weight. So the weight of the bike. It is, okay, here's what's good about it, is that it is much heavier than other bikes maybe of this size. So when you're on the highway, it doesn't get shaken as much by the wind, which is very, it's confidence inspiring when you're on the highway, because I'll take the highway to get to, let's say, the trailheads and to get on those trails. But, when you're going, 70 miles, 75 miles an hour, then, that the wind and other things can really kind of affect it. So where it's a bad thing, though, is the weight, is when you're off-road, is that when this does go down, and you are picking it up for, the type of engine that it is, it's a pretty heavy bike. Like, it's over 450 pounds. So you are having to, to muscle this thing up. However, because it's much lower to the ground, for whatever reason, whether it's holding its weight low or not, it is relatively probably easier than maybe another 450 pound bike where maybe the weight is up much higher. The next thing I want to talk about is the suspension. So the suspension on this bike is pretty soft, and I've had to upgrade the rear suspension. There's, a much higher capacity or higher weighted spring that's in there. I tried to do the same thing with the front, replace the springs, but it's still, the front is really, really soft, and especially going, doing some off-road stuff where you run into a lot of bumps, this thing will bottom out often. And that's just not the greatest thing to kind of deal with. So definitely the thing that's not really good is you've got to worry about suspension. Again, if you're on road and you're tooling around town, this is a great bike if you're going to take it on some trips, albeit you don't want to spend a lot of time on the highways. Great bike as well that your suspension is going to be fine. I'm talking specifically about you take this off-road, gravel roads, you got to worry about the suspension on this. The next thing I want to talk about is really the geometry of the bike or the shape of the bike. What I've done is that for riding off-road, I do a lot of standing up when I'm on these gravel roads, going around corners, just working with my weight there and shifting my weight around the bike. So when I stand up, I do have some bar risers up there that get it a little bit higher, but what the problem is that for that kind of thing, when you're standing up, you are like pinching the bike essentially between your knees. The tank is pretty wide. It's great on the road. It's totally comfortable. As soon as you stand up, it's a little bit different as opposed to other bikes that just have a slimmer profile when you're standing up riding on the road. So there's that. Really the final thing which is what I don't like about this Himalayan and why I'm selling it, is that I have multiple motorcycles and I ride the other motorcycles off-road on the same trails that I'll ride the Himalayan. And I get hurt more on this bike. I go down more. It just seems to, there's no other way to put it. It's like I get hurt more. So I don't know if I'm jinxed by it or whatnot, but I just don't want to get hurt anymore on the bike. And it's not running into things. It's just you lose traction, you go down, and most times I'm fine. It's just that odd time when you tweak something or you bruise something a bit more than usual. That just happens more often on this bike than on my other bikes. So that's kind of sort of the main thing. So that is, like, in a nutshell, what is really the things that are driving me to get rid of this bike. Now, as a bonus, okay, let's say a bonus, let's say the sixth reason is that even though it's a very forgiving engine, especially if you're learning to ride off-road, the Himalayan would be a great bike to learn. Because it's a forgiving engine, you don't lose control. It is, though, it does lack a little bit of oomph when you need it. Even though it can chug up hills really easily or whatnot, sometimes you just need to give it a little bit on the gas to maybe lift the front end a little bit to get over an obstacle. It's a little bit harder with this bike. You really got to keep the revs up high to do that, and the bike shakes to all hell when you're like just up high like that. So it has kind of a unique sound. It's a unique feel to it. Those are really. Yeah, that's kind of another reason. So, hope you enjoyed it. Again, I'm not saying you should never buy this bike. I'm saying be aware of these things that what I experienced in the year and a half that I've had this bike, that I've decided, I think I need to get rid of it. Those are the things that I didn't like about it. And then stay tuned because I've got another video, because this bike, the times I ride it just keeps me smiling. And there are some good reasons why it keeps me smiling when I ride this bike. So, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again in the next one.
Oh, that hurt.